We're kind of drowning in data these days, right? Business reports, scientific studies, numbers are everywhere. So how do we make sense of it all? How do we turn all that raw information into something we can actually use? Well, the answer is all about turning those numbers into a story our brains can understand. Let's dive in and see how it works.
Okay, take a look at this. A pretty standard quarterly sales report. Now, somewhere hidden in all of these numbers is the single most important trend of the entire year. Can you spot it? It's tough, right? Your brain is just working overtime trying to read the figures, let alone compare them and find some kind of pattern.
But now look at the exact same data. Wow. Instantly you see it, that massive spike in quarter 3. You didn't have to do any math, you didn't have to focus really hard, you just see it. And this right here, this is the core power of data visualization, turning abstract numbers into an immediate, intuitive story.
But this isn't some kind of magic trick. Nope. There's a really powerful reason why that chart works so well, and it's all rooted in the way our brains are wired. So what are we really talking about? Well, data visualization is just the practice of translating data into a visual context, like a chart or a map. The whole point is to tap into our brain's incredible, hardwired ability to spot patterns and make sense of the world visually.
It really does 3 crucial things for us. First, it helps us externalize our thinking. It gets that jumble of numbers out of our head and onto a screen where we can actually see how they relate. That frees up so much mental energy. Second, it's a pattern-finding machine, showing us trends we'd totally miss otherwise. And finally, it's like a universal language, helping us communicate really complex ideas to just about anyone, super quickly and clearly.
And the science behind this is just fascinating. Our brains have this built-in superpower called pre-attentive processing. Basically, it means we're hardwired to spot differences in things like color or size almost instantly, before we even consciously think about it. Remember that sales chart? You didn't have to go looking for the Q3 spike. Your brain's pre-attentive processing made it completely impossible to miss.
And here's the reason that first table was so hard to deal with. Our working memory, the part of our brain that's juggling information right now, can only handle about 7 chunks of information at a time. And that table had dozens. By making a chart, we basically offload all that data into a single visual chunk, which lets us bypass our brain's natural limits. Pretty cool, huh?
All right, so now that we know why charts work, let's take a quick tour of the basic tools we can use to tell all sorts of different data stories.
So let's say your main goal is simple. You just want to compare values between different groups. How much did company A sell compared to company B?
For that job, the classic bar chart is king. It's because our brains are just fantastic at comparing lengths. We can tell at a glance which bar is longer and by about how much. It's just direct, it's intuitive, and it's incredibly effective for making comparisons.
But what if your story isn't about a single snapshot, but about movement? Maybe you want to see how your sales have grown or how website traffic bounced around over the last year. For that, the line chart is your go-to. It connects the dots to reveal that narrative of trends and cycles over time.
And for our final stop on this little tour, what if you need to show how different pieces make up a whole? For example, what percentage of the company budget is going to marketing versus R&D versus salaries?
Right, so for that, something like a donut chart or a pie chart can work really well. It gives you an immediate sense of proportion. But a quick word of caution here, our brains aren't actually great at comparing the angles of different slices. So these charts are usually best when you only have a few categories and you just want to show a simple percentage breakdown.
Okay, knowing the right type of chart is one thing, but how you make it is everything. And this brings us to the most practical part of this whole thing, how to spot the difference between a helpful chart and one that's, well, actively trying to mislead you.
Here's the most crucial point. Bad design hides the data, while good design makes it shine. So you've got to watch out for what I call design sins. Things like pointless 3D effects, all that decorative clutter that experts call chart junk, and of course misleading scales. They just cause confusion. The goal should always be clarity and simplicity, where every single thing on that chart, especially color, is there for a reason.
The absolute pioneer of data visualization, a guy named Edward Tufte, he put it best. He said, above all else, show the data. He talked about aiming for the highest possible data-to-ink ratio, which is a fancy way of saying that every single drop of ink on a graphic should be there for a reason, to give you information, not just to look pretty.
Let's look at a classic example of a bad, misleading chart. See how the vertical axis here doesn't start at 0? They call this truncating the axis. And what it does is it makes tiny, maybe even insignificant differences between the bars look like these huge, dramatic gaps. It's honestly one of the most common tricks in the book for distorting the truth.
So let's bring this all home. As we've seen, being able to not just make a chart, but to critically read a chart, well, that's not a niche skill anymore. In a world saturated with data, it's a fundamental kind of literacy.
So if you're going to remember just 3 things from all this, make it these. First, visualization works because it's a hack for our brain's powerful visual system. Second, picking the right chart is all about matching it to the story you're trying to tell. Is it a comparison, a change over time, or parts of a whole? And finally, good design is honest design. So always check that axis, question the colors, and stay critical.
Because from now on, the next time you see a chart in the news or in a report, you'll know it isn't just a picture of numbers. It's an argument. It's a point of view. It's a story. And the only question is, now that you know the language, can you read it?